Welcome back, everyone. In today's video, we're going to take a really hard look at a Tandy DMP133 dot matrix printer. I had to do some investigating. That printer has been acting up lately, and I wanted to figure out exactly why. Well, it didn't take me long to figure out that, oh boy, those capacitors were so overdone. Just nasty, gross, disgusting, foul-smelling, leaking everywhere. So I went ahead and I recapped that printer. You'll see later on. But after I did that, I decided I should take a good look at the Tandy 1000 system unit itself. Now, these are known for having cap issues on the power supplies. So I went ahead and took my power supply out, and I replaced what I have in stock. A couple of these little guys, but I don't have the big ones. I don't have these three or these two, or anything close enough to that could be substituted. I do not have a 10-volt 3300 microfarad. The biggest I have for a 10 is a what do we got? 2200. I don't have anything close to that. So I had to go ahead and we're going to place an order with Mauser for some new caps. But while I'm in here, I wanted to clean the keyboard, so I'm popping the keys off. I've never actually cleaned this keyboard before. I've done it just surface wiping and getting between the keys, but I never gave it a thorough wash. And I'm looking at the little underlayment thing here. It is just disgusting. Now, I don't know if I said this before, but I've owned this computer since it was new. This is a 1988 or 1990 model Tandy 1000, and my dad bought this brand new. In fact, there's the receipt and the warranty for it right there. So this has been in my family since 1990, and I'm wondering if some of the fur, there's a lot of cat fur in here, if it belonged to any of my childhood cats. But this machine's been heavily modded. It's got the I added the smartwatch by DJOS. I forget his name. He's from Australia. It's got the NEC V20 chip. It's got this 3-in-1 board. Love this. This is by Rob Krennicky, and it's got all the hits. I just added a 5¼ external drive for this to this machine, and I'm quite proud of that addition. But I figured, while I'm in here, might as well pull the caps on the main power supply and just get them done. There's not that many of them, and none of them are leaking. So this is a good time to do this. You want to get these before they blow their tops. So, and I think that's really the only problem with these power supplies is those caps. They just, they start to stray out of value. Sometimes they blow their tops. Sometimes they slowly leak. Just get them done. The thing is, a lot of this hardware is just not replaceable anymore. You can't just go to Radio Shack and buy another one. I'm being oversimplistic, but literally, some of this hardware just can't be found at a reasonable price. So you want to just do the best you can to take care of what you've got and keep it clean, recap what you can, and prevent those failures from ever starting in the first place, because that printer almost became a total loss, as you'll see later on in the video. So stay tuned, and let me pop these keys off. We're going to give this keyboard its first bath in 34 years. And I won't be getting these new caps in for a couple of days, so I won't be this thing won't be going back together today. But anyway, I'll keep you guys posted if anything catastrophic happens. Well, I got the keys back on, nice and clean. I noticed that now I thought these keys were basically double shot, but no, they're actually printed, and some of the print had faded to like a grayish color. I mean, this keyboard still looks better than like 90% of these Tandy 1000 keyboards, but like some of these are gray and they should be black as black can be. I don't know why that is. Now, again, I thought these were double shot, not silk screened, and I think I'm right, but the plastic, I don't know. Whatever. It's okay. It's not like it's going to hinder. It's not, it's just me being nitpicky, really. But whatever. But they needed to be cleaned. 100% needed to be done. They're clean now. I took the whole board out and I recapped it. There were about half a dozen or a dozen or so radial caps. I replaced them with, axial caps. I replaced them with radials. That's what I have, and I had all the values needed to recap the main board. This is after I took a look at just on a whim during a live feed. Some of you might have been in the live feed. But here's the floppy drive. And I never I never had a lick of trouble with this floppy drive. Never once. Never had a problem with it. And on a whim, I'm like, I'm going to check these two caps in the back. And sure enough, they're leaking. This one and the other one. I replaced the other cap. This one, so there's a 47 microfarad, 6.3 volt. And the other one was I forget what it was. Did I save it? Did I put it aside? I can't read it. 1647, I think. 16 volt, 47 microfarad. Both of them were leaking. So once again, if you saw that video of the Tandy 1000 printer, the DMP 133, where I found that the printer actually was working fine, so I later discovered. But it does have a quirk. When hooked up to a Tandy 1000 and you cut the power, it starts to do things that it shouldn't do. So you have to shut the printer off first, then shut the computer off. But anyway, that printer had a large cap, big one, gushing its fluid everywhere. And I just want to point that out because, you know, that kind of electrolyte can cause permanent damage to the board and could cause a short. This machine right here, this is my most valuable machine. Not monetarily, although it is worth quite a bit as a set, as a complete kit. But this is one of my most prized possessions. And on a hunch, I just started checking it over, and I'm finding that, oh my God, it needed caps in the floppy drive. So I just changed them all. But if you're, again, you know, these videos are targeted towards people who are either current collectors, who aren't as hardware savvy. I mean, those of you who are hardware savvy, you already know this. This is nothing new to you. But for those of you who are trying to get into the hobby, that's my target. By the way, those are my target. My target audience are the newcomers to the hobby. So that being said, these are things you need to worry about. Learn how to solder is my underlying message. Learn how to solder, learn how to desolder, get some good supplies, good tools. I like my Hacko equipment myself. It works the best. But you don't have to spend a lot. You can get some pretty basic soldering equipment. Open up a Mouser account and start recapping your stuff because, I mean, these are not that expensive and they're not that hard to change. And there's plenty of tutorials on the web that show you how to do this. And again, I'm recapping stuff that isn't even broken yet. And the longer you wait, the worse it gets. Now I find that these axial caps, they don't leak as often. They don't go bad as frequently, but they do go bad. And I think the reason why is there's only one penetration through the shell, through a rubber gasket. It's that rubber gasket that's the problem, see? And the other side is soldered and it'll never leak, but there's a rubber seal. That's where your electrolyte's going to start coming out of. I have actually had some of these leak in a Toshiba portable. That's the plasma portable machine. That thing right there. The plasma display had some leaking capacitors in it, and they were axials. The axial meaning the leads go from, they come out the ends on the axis. So, and yeah, you can replace these with radials. It's not a problem. They're just packaged differently. Radials do leak more often, and again, I think it's because there's two penetrations in that rubber seal rather than just one. See how there's one lead coming out? And if I look at a radial, there's two. So 2 times the fun. And that's my theory as to why they don't leak as often. But again, change one, change them all, and you will extend the life of the hardware. These are beyond end of life. I mean, they're meant to last 10, 15, 20 years. This machine's 35 years old. So, just from age alone, they are just ticking time bombs. And again, this one right here, get a good look at it. Let me try to zoom in here. Get a good look at that. You can see a little bit of wetness. Well, it's dry now, but there was a little bit of crustiness on the board when I pulled it off, and that's your dead giveaway. These are no good. They're no good. Time to go. So long-term plans, like I said, I definitely want to do the monitor, the CM11. I need to build a cap list for that thing, and there's going to be a lot. That's going to be a project. Monitors have lots of caps in them and a lot of high-value ones. But I do want to make sure that one gets done. But again, this is a machine that I am going to keep for the rest of my life. I don't want to risk it getting damaged by saving a few cents on a couple of caps. I will not risk it that way. This is an easy job. It's going to take me a few minutes of my time. But while we're in there, I did some cleaning. I cleaned the fan. I want to point that out too. So the HX and EX use this Mitsumi, I think, or is it Mitsumi or Minabe? Minabe is another company. It's a Mitsumi fan. This fan is loud. So if you turn one of these on for the first time and you're not familiar with the way these sound, you might be alarmed at how loud that fan really is. It shouldn't rattle, but it makes a whining sound, kind of a droning sound. It's a little obnoxious. I prefer to keep this thing original, and that sound, is I first heard when I was 5 years old, and my dad brought this thing home. I remember when it was first turned on and it made that sound. And I'm like, is it broken? No, that's just how they sound. These were built on a very tight budget. They were very inexpensive, but have one of the nicest keyboards to type on. Even for the price class of this machine, these keyboards are just so nice to type on. This was a competitor to machines like the Commodore 64, Commodore 128. The Apple II was a competitor of the Tandy 1000. And they had very similar marketing strategies, similar price point. Actually, the Tandy was cheaper than the Apple II by quite a bit. But the Tandy was a bargain of a machine. If you just needed a very basic DOS machine with no permanent storage devices of any kind, this is what you would buy. It was targeted towards classrooms, towards schools, towards home, not towards business. And they made sure that they weren't cannibalizing, their higher end computer sales. I mean, this thing doesn't even have a parallel port as you would normally find one. You know, it's a very basic machine. There's no 8-bit ISA slots in this machine, although they could have engineered some in. You do have this little expansion bus, which is what this slots into. You know, but it was just a very, very basic machine, and very well priced. So you do see a lot of cost cutting in this system, and you know, one shocking example is it didn't have a battery backed up real-time clock. So you had to buy this is a reproduction of the original module that was that fits right in this spot. And the reproduction ones, you have to cut away some of the metal to make it fit, which is what I did. And I marked off what kind of batteries in there when it was installed. You know, the floppy drives on the Tandys were proprietary on purpose. They didn't want you buying a floppy drive off the shelf. There are adapters. If you have one of these Tandys and the floppy drive doesn't work and changing the capacitors doesn't fix it, you can simply you can actually buy, there's on the third party today, you know, I think it's on Tandy perhaps. There is somebody making a floppy drive adapter that you can use a standard 720K floppy drive with this machine, and it'll bolt right up. The drive housing is standard sized. It's the there's your Tandy faceplate. Standard size. This is a Sony drive, by the way. Standard drive, standard size, but the connector, the bus is different. It is bus powered rather than powered by a separate cable. That is what makes it kind of different and unique. But there is actually, this drive is a standard Sony floppy drive with, you know, some customizations to it for the Tandy supply chain. And but it is otherwise a standard Sony drive. But yeah, there are two electrolytics here and here, and you want to change those out. So that's it. And while you're in there, you can also clean the heads with a cotton swab. That's the best way to do it. But I have been using this drive since I was a 5-year-old kid. Can you imagine that? I remember the first floppy drive I ever used is this one. And it's still around, and it still works. A little bit of corrosion. This was not stored in the most ideal circumstances for much of its life. There's a little bit of corrosion on some of the parts of this machine. But you know what? That's going to happen. It's not like it's affecting anything. So anyway, well, that's it for now. So yeah, capacitors are they're taking out our childhood electronics. Between that and brittle plastic disease, which takes out some of the early Macs. Anyway, this is a stereo that I'm working on right now for a customer. I get a lot of these. I got one more. There's one in that box, and there's one in that box. So I got more coming too. But back to the Tandy. So it didn't end at the caps on the power supply weren't really bad. I'm just replacing them prophylactically. I did replace all the logic board caps. I did that in a live video actually, and here they are. Original caps were axial, Dibar, a couple of Dibars. Never heard of that brand. I think there's some Nichicons. Michicon. No, not Nichicon. The fuck. Anyway, a couple of those. Michicon. Anyway, I got a bunch of this. So I replaced all of those, but I used radial caps because they're more available and I have them in stock. Now, on a whim, I took the old floppy drive apart. And I just took the cover off and I'm like, there's a couple of electrolytics on here too. Why not replace those while I'm in there, you know? So I pulled out the two that were visible right here, and they were both leaking. So this is a problem that I was not aware of. The floppy drive has always worked flawlessly, but it was starting to leak electrolyte, and I had to clean the board a little bit. This is a 47 microfarad, 6.3 volt. I don't have these in stock, so I had to order. I actually ordered 100 of them because I'll use them on some of the radios that I work on. But I ordered 100 of those things. That's my minimum order quantity typically on something that I'm going to use more than once. So there you go. That's why I've got bins full of caps. But anyway, and then just today I'm like, I wonder what else. There's got to be more capacitors here. So I kind of took a little peek on the side, and sure enough, there's one right there. So I took the board off, right? And there were 3 caps right here. 3 electrolytics, very low profile ones. And I went and replaced those. I think there was a 50 volt 1 microfarad, there's a 1610, and there was a 50.47 microfarad. So replace those. This is all preventative to prevent the inevitable from occurring, and that is that eventually these caps will leak, they will spew their guts, and they will ruin a computer that I have now owned for 35 years. It already happened on the printer. Didn't do any permanent damage, but definitely wasn't ideal. You can see that video too. That one, I can still smell the fishy, oily smell from that capacitor that I replaced. That one cap. This room still smells like it. Even though I've discarded everything, I changed the filter on my gun, cleaned it, still, it just, that smell. Can't get rid of it. But you want to ideally replace these caps before things go south. Because ask anyone who restores vintage computers, and they'll tell you. Sometimes you get lucky. The Apple II over there, for example, the original caps from 1980 were all still relatively good, and they actually tested good. I replaced them anyway because, luck is running out. The monitor was the one exception. I had a few bad ones on the monitor. So the monitor wasn't working correctly, but now it's all fixed. Everything works great. I recapped the floppy drives, the monitor, and the system unit. But let's talk about an example where recapping was beyond necessary. It was beyond. The damage has been done. Let's talk about the LC3, for example. Now, these are notorious for blowing PSU caps at around the 25 to 30 year mark. And this was no exception. Now, this one, I have 2 power supplies for it. One of them had died, and another one has not died yet. So I recapped the dead one, and occasionally when I turn it on, it's like it's not firing all voltage rails correctly. It's been damaged. There was a lot of board damage on this one. I had to reconstruct a few things. A lot of corrosion from the cap leakage. So occasionally I'll fire this thing on and it will not send out a video signal. And this all started when I put that other power supply in after I recapped it. I don't know what else is damaged, and it's an intermittent problem. So I'm going to go ahead and recap the other power supply that I have, the one that actually did work. It's right here. This is my next one. And I can get the kit from Console 5. Console 5 has been a great resource, by the way, for those of us who have very common systems that we work on. And like I said, they've been a great resource. They have cap kits for just about every Apple II. That's where I got the power supply caps for the 2 Plus. And I'm going to be doing my 2GS pretty soon. I think that's going to be my next one. But I've got to work through the Tandy first. Recap the entire system. Floppy drive, power supply. I already did the logic board. I'm going to be doing my new external floppy drive that I haven't shown you guys yet. It's a 5¼ inch external. They're kind of hard to find, but I found one. And it was in the original box, so kind of a neat treasure there. But like I said, we're gonna be doing everything in my collection. I'm gonna slowly start working through. The Apple II Plus is completed. My compact Contora is completed. My LTE 5000 is only partially done. That one still needs a cap job. See, this thing's got a new battery too, by the way. Thanks to Jesse Fenn, the battery man. He rebuilt me a battery pack as fast as he can, but he did a nice job, and this thing gets like 5 hours of battery life now. I mean, seriously, crazy. Laptop collectors have their own unique set of problems, which is why I've actually started liquidating my laptops, because they age aggressively. Laptops, you know, I like I said, I'm no longer acquiring laptops because they have brittle plastics that were brittle when they were new. And hinge mounts are constantly breaking off of these machines. It's really a shame. But the displays themselves are starting to degrade. I've never had one happen in my collection, but some of these LCD displays develop what's called a vinegar disease or vinegar syndrome. And it's called that because it emits a very vinegar-like odor. And the the polarizer literally begins to self-destruct. It's terrifying. It's really bad when you see it. I've never seen it on any of my machines. Oops. I've never had it happen. But the Contoras and the LTEs are some of the more common victims of this particular problem. But furthermore, laptop hard drives are a little less robust than desktop hard drives, so those are constantly failing. And the caps are generally surface mount. So you have to use a hot air gun, which I have one. I mean, I'm pretty well equipped here, but not everybody is. So if you're looking to recap something like a laptop power supply or motherboard, you may want to send it out to a company that does that kind of work. And I'm giving a shameless plug to Amiga of Rochester. Just Google them. And they do run a nice full recap service for us vintage hobbyists who aren't equipped or skilled to do the jobs ourselves. I've been soldering since I was 9 years old, so I'm not afraid of a soldering iron at all. In fact, like I said, I run a business doing car stereo work. And I've been pretty good with that. But, you know, even these G3s are starting to develop cap issues simply from age. And those are all surface mount caps. And when those go bad, it's pretty bad. It gets to be pretty destructive from what I've seen. So I've got a few machines that are going to go under the knife. Once the Tandy's completed, I'm going to focus my attention back on the LC3. I'm going to get another cap kit, and I'm going to do the other power supply. Once that's done, I'm going to go to the 2GS. I want to get the most valuable machines done because they're the ones that are most at risk. The 2GS, you know, that's like a $700 package right there. If I were to sell this as a complete system, I think that's about what it's worth. The LC3, you know, $100 to $200, not really worth much, but I like it myself. You know, I did the T3200SX. I actually did a complete cap job on that. And the power supply did not survive. I don't know what I did wrong. I checked my work 3-4 times over, checked cap values, checked placement, polarity. I don't know what happened to it. But fortunately, another Toshiba enthusiast sold me a complete system, and I was able to pull the necessary parts off of that. It doesn't typically happen. But then I might do the Windows 98 desktop. Maybe I'll do that one. But this is to extend the lifespan of this hardware beyond reasonable life expectancy. You know, just give it another 15, 20, 30 years of life, and that's all I can do. Could you imagine using an Apple II that is 60 years old? Well, guess what? In 20 years, it will be. Actually, 15 years. Oh, wait a second. If that thing's 45 years old, okay, 45 years old, oh my God, it'll be 50 years old in 5 years. I just had a major realization of my own age. I was born 4 years after that was built, which means that I'll be 50 years old in 10 years. Oh my God. But anyway, imagine that, computers that still work after 50 years of their completion, or their construction. It's just nuts. I never thought I'd live to see the day where this Tandy 1000 would be worth something, but it is worth actually more to me for sentimental reasons than it ever will be in the free market. So anyway, I've babbled on long enough. I think you all get the point of what I'm trying to say. So thank you for watching, and do check your caps. If you've got a machine that you value, one that you took you years to find, you find that one example, and you want it to last, you've really got to look at doing a complete electrolytic cap overhaul. And again, if you don't want to do it yourself, or you're just you don't trust your own skills yet, go to Amiga of Rochester. They'll take care of you. I do recommend going to Savers. Buy some bullshit piece of equipment, a stereo, a VCR, whatever. Just don't start on a TV. You could kill yourself. But do one of those and just start practicing your solder skills on it. Special bonus if it's a piece of equipment that you're looking for. Let's say you're looking for a VCR and you find a nice 1980s VCR Savers for $10 and you want to practice recapping. There's a good opportunity on that one piece of equipment. If it blows up, you're out $10 plus the caps that you bought. Anyway, that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll do an update video, I think, when this job is complete, and we'll see how it goes.